I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, February the 22nd, where this market looks like it's ripe for the picking. We've had about 3 or 4 weeks in a row here where the Packers have bought less than what they really need to fill their needs on the negotiated side. We've got another storm coming, one of many. We've just had one after the other, and the worst winter that we've had in a long time. A lot of cattle in most of your 5 area feeding regions pulling a lot of mud. Bitter cold temperatures have sucked the weights back big time. Show list was quite a bit smaller. I don't put a lot of stock in that, but it's something to add to that, about 11,000 smaller on the show list for this week. The huge sales of out front delivery beef that we talked about earlier in the week that happened, actually the information come out last week. The Packers have a lot of orders to fill coming up down the line. They don't want to get short on supplies, and everything's just kind of coming around. Here 2 or 3 weeks ago, you know, the 126 was just right there for your cattle feeders to reach out and pluck. They didn't end up doing that. They wanted more. They kind of got their hand slapped and pulled back. Had to take 125 2 weeks in a row. But if ever there was a time to take advantage of the market, this week is a time to do that. Let's look at the board for Thursday, February live cattle futures. Down 70, but still higher for the week at 127.62. Wouldn't 128 be sweet and get back to a positive basis there? April down 60 at 128.60. August and beyond in your out fronts were all higher, not a lot higher, but a pinch higher. March feeder cattle contracts down 65 cents at 143.22. April was down 55 at 145.52. No fat cattle sales at all to speak of on Thursday. You know, we saw a little bit of trade Monday, Tuesday in Iowa places, but hardly any at all. We saw just a smidge on your fed cattle exchange that was steady at 125, but then it is just completely shut off. I think even your most backwoods farmer feeder knows that it's time to gain some market position in this fat cattle trade on a negotiated style. Probably or definitely won't happen until late on Friday. For you guys that want to stay on top of the market, I invite you to get on Twitter. I know that's kind of a new age thing. It took a while for me to get on there, but it's a pretty good avenue. And get on Twitter and follow Consolidated Beef Producers Trades. You just get on and go to @CattleTrades, and whenever they have negotiated fat cattle sales, they will tweet those out and tell you exactly where they were at, how many cattle there was, and what they brought. So even if it's after the board closes, after the market reports come out on Friday, you can still see that information at @CattleTrades on Twitter. Let's look at your box beef cutout values. Higher on choice, and quite a bit higher for Thursday afternoon there, with choice cuts in the day at 218.07. That was up $1.58. Select was about steady, down just 9 cents at 211.41. Your slaughter, we knew it was going to be lighter because we had some shutdowns, but kind of crawling back a little bit. 436,000 through Thursday. That was 13,000 less than last week at this time, but then it kind of caved off on Friday and Saturday too, if you remember last week. But then 8,000 less than the same week a year ago. Let's look at your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central ended the day, late in the day on Thursday, was sitting at 141.13, down 23 cents. And you know, we've got another storm coming, and I tell you what, the guys in the upper Midwest, most of Nebraska, places like that, they've just had enough. They can't take it anymore. It's one of those miserable, you know, I lived up in the northern Missouri there for several years, and I know what it's you just get about this time of year, you just get depressed. You haven't seen the sunshine in so long. It's been so long since you weren't bitter cold. doing chores every day. You'd just rather take a good ass kicking as to have to go outside and do your chores every day, and it's miserable. Most of your cow-calf producers have started to calve, maybe just first calf heifers or maybe just part of their herd, but most of them are doing that. That is miserable. Trying to pull calves in snowdrift is not a fun way to make a living or serve the Lord, and it's kind of a tough deal right now. And so we're starting to see some of those guys back out that feed cattle, and it just it makes everybody depressed. Even your order buyers, they can't get excited about doing it either, because every time they talk to their order guy, the place where they're sending cattle, they're telling them how miserable it is, and it's just affecting everybody. It's tough to see much drive on these feeder weight cattle, even though there's a lot of demand for calves for spring grass turnout, because the calendar says that is going to happen here before too awful long. But it's just hard to believe when the storms just keep coming week after week after week. We are going to see the cattle on feed report for the January 1st inventories come out on Friday afternoon. I think everybody's kind of forgot about that, but due to the government shutdown, that is going to come out. Your expectations are 102 on January 1st inventories, placements 101.4, and marketing is just under 100%. But like I said, when it happened, I'll say it again now, that's gone, that's on past. Nobody's too worried about that, but they are going to start catching up on those. Next Thursday, expected to have the cattle inventory report come out, and most of us think that USDA is going to say that in 2019 we're going to continue to see rebuilding, but it's just hard for so many of us to believe, because we watched the beef cow slaughter and the heifer slaughter last year just be so much larger than it had been the year before, and just and huge compared to the 3 and 5 year average. So it's hard to believe. Sometimes you feel those reports are about 6 months behind if they're going to call for continued rebuilding of the herd. A lot of us are just going to take that with a grain of salt. But let's look at some of your markets on Thursday. Pratt, Kansas had a lighter run, 2,000 head. Feeders are steady to $3 higher. Calves not well tested. Farmers and ranchers livestock in Salina, just 1,900 head there, steady to 2 higher and a light test. Mitchell, South Dakota had a big run, but they always have big runs. 6,500 head in Mitchell, mostly $2 to $5 lower. That's one of those places where they're just storm weary. They can't seem to take anymore, and just hate to look at the forecast, because it just shows another big storm coming, and expected to have a lot of snow with it, and it could be a kind of a devastating blizzard type situation here in just a few days. But let's talk about a big sale on Thursday. Ogallala, Nebraska. Ogallala Livestock Auction, Dwayne Mays and Company there, 7,500 head there. Big sales. They've been having big sales here for the last 2 or 3 months. But look at this Cattle Market Central market report, and you see all the quotes there broke down by the weights. And let's look at some of the averages on your steers. 1,333 head of 6-weight steers, average 650 pounds at 162.33. 1,195 head of 7-weight steers, average 744 at 147.65. Look at some of the heifers. 759 head of heifers in the 5-weight category, average 551 at 159.08. It's pretty darn good on a heifer calf. And 944 head of 6-weight heifers, average 648 at 143.54. Hard to call the market because they didn't have a sale last week, a big feeder sale, but they've been running kind of every other week after the stock show specials and having these big huge runs. It gets a lot of buyers in there, but roughly it looked like the calves were quite a bit higher and feeders a little bit softer compared to the last sale that they had. Give you a couple of individual quotes. 210 head of 699, might as well say 700-pound steers in Ogallala, bring 162. That wouldn't be much cheaper, if any. But look at these light calves. 53 head, 518-pound steers in Ogallala, bring 199. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.